Hi, I'm Rachel McCloud. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and emotional wellness coach. And today I'm going to be talking with you about why eye movement desensitization and reprocessing may or may not work for you. And I really want you to I want to talk to you about this because I want you to know. I want you to be able to navigate your decisions and your directions and your healing path as quickly as possible, because there is no reason to prolong suffering and to stay in states of not having control over yourself and being out of control and being hit with symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress for longer than necessary. And you can restore healthy brain function. It is happening. It is beautiful. Where people are moving into things called like post-traumatic growth, right? And all sorts of wonderful things that this has been labeled. And we're starting to learn that that we have a beautiful prognosis if you've got these challenges, anxiety, depression, or traumatic stress, and that life can be so much better. And also, if you have them, what happens is when you do the work, it's like you're here and life keeps moving on and you can't keep up, really, and life keeps moving up. But when you start to do the healing work, it's like the slingshot effect. Like all of a sudden you are shot into the stratosphere of awesome. Because if you've been suffering with symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress, you may feel behind, or you may feel like less mature, less evolved. But the fact of the matter is you are still building valuable skills. They are skills of suffering in some ways, but there are other skills. And this time is not wasted, but it's not fun and it's not something to be in forever. And so when you do this healing work, you not only get to keep all of the skills that you've built, but you also get this huge brain upgrade, and you get this internal, you just get to be more of who you are. And if you've got skills of suffering and dealing with all this stuff, you have built strength. You have developed strength. And do not ignore that. Don't think that that doesn't count for something. You are a strong person to be suffering and to keep showing up for yourself, showing up for your kiddos, showing up for your family, your job. That builds strength. It's the same thing as, being going through boot camp, right? It's just your boot camp may have been decades, right? But you're strong now and you're still suffering. Let's get you out of suffering and see what happens now. Okay. So I specialize in helping women specifically at this time eliminate symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress in 2 to 6 months instead of 2 to 6 years. Okay, that is my whole gig. I love it. And there's really ways that I do that. And one of the things that I have done is I have searched out and trained in and mastered some of the fastest interventions in our country at the moment. And so I have quite a toolbox, and one of the items in my toolbox is EMDR. If I am working or training in an intervention that is slow, a lot of times it gets tossed to the back. If I have an intervention that is slow and valuable, it gets tossed to the back, but not so far back. It's like, okay, I'll pull you out if I need to, but I'll go through several other ones first before we're going to get to that one. But EMDR is one of those interventions, and it's one of the interventions that really helps the body do the healing work that's needed. And if you watch my last video, I talked about if you use the body, you will get more results than a year's worth of talk therapy. And it really is that powerful. It's a way to engage the body in your healing process, because that is one of the places the problem is, and that's why talk therapy doesn't reach that part, because it just can't get there. And that's okay. That talk therapy has its values. But when you want to eliminate symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress, those are not the strategies you want to go for. You can use those ones later or while or during, but not standalone. And don't think if you're going to use those that you're going to get symptom elimination, because you're just not. You might get relief. You might get, you might be able to stay busier and avoid pit holes, but really we want to eliminate the pit holes, right? So That's one piece of this. Okay, so let me tell you. So EMDR has come through my world, and it has met my my check marks. I think it's awesome, and because it does what I want it to do, which is eliminate symptoms, and really it does. Now, I am going to tell you that up front, that if I had to throw out like if I had to get rid of one tool from my toolbox, which I would hate, and I won't do it, right? But let's just say I had to. EMDR would be on that list. I know. I would sacrifice EMDR to keep the other ones that I've got. Now, let me tell you, that would break my heart. I don't want to do that, but I can do so much more with the other tools, and that's some of what I'm going to talk with you about. However, I have clients, especially in my therapy practice, and lots of men, and I'll tell you why in a second, but who will only do EMDR. They will only do eye movements, and that's fine. We can do all of this with EMDR, no big deal. Usually takes longer, but so there are some people that really prefer it. And if you really, the thing is, you just want to find the right match for you and your style and what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do and why. But you might want to use EMDR, and you will not find anybody who will do it with you. And I will tell you why that is the case. And when you hear that, you're going to be like, I don't want to do that either. And so I want to take some of the tension off. I want to help you have realistic expectations, because people are talking about EMDR. It's the most popular intervention in our country right now, and it is because it is life-changing. And so there are lots of therapists trained in EMDR. There are more and more getting trained all the time. Yes. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more, how to choose somebody that is good for you and is a good match, and somebody who will rock this out, and when to know that when you have reached the skill set, the end of their skill set. I'm going to write that down because I don't want to forget that. You will come to the end of any therapist's skill set if you're healing, and that's good. There's nothing wrong with that. What's wrong with that is when you've come to the end and you don't know that you've come to the end, and they don't know you've come to the end, and you just stay there and you're not continuing to progress. And depending on how skillful your therapist is, it will depend on how much you can get out of the situation, and so and how soon you'll run into the end of their skill set for you. Okay, so let's talk about this. Okay, I want to tell you why EMDR may or may not be the right fit for you. And let me tell you how the brain works first, and then I'll. So EMDR is an eye movement based intervention. You literally move your eyes back and forth. That your therapist guides you to do that. This is the same movements, similar movements to what you're doing when you're doing REM sleep and that rapid eye movement sleep cycle. And we think that this is when, while you're sleeping, that your brain is doing a lot of emotional work. And this is, which is interesting, right? Because lots of people with symptoms of anxiety, depression, traumatic stress have nightmares and stress dreams, nightmares, flashbacks in the dream. And that's because your subconscious mind is trying to work on healing while you're sleeping. If you have a nightmare, it means it couldn't get it done, and it just went crazy and it went off track, and boom, no healing, and now you wake up in a panic, right? Not good. And that's letting you know your brain is stuck and it needs some support and working through that situation. And you can quickly. But that's when we're supposed to be doing that. And if you work through all your stuff, your brain can take care of a lot of your emotional work while you're sleeping. That's when it likes to do the work, and that's nice. But that's one of the installed mechanisms in your body for healing, is that eye movement piece. There's a couple of interventions that are very powerful that your body already comes installed with, and I'm going to name those now because why not? Eye movement. That's one of the installation projects. Crying. a good ugly cry will desensitize the mess out of things if you're doing it right. You can't do it right if you're crying and talking crap about yourself, unless, anyway, caveats. But if you can just cry then about whatever it is you're sad about, you are doing some really good brain work. As a matter of fact, my very first emotional crash, so I had no tools, it finally spit me out after 8 weeks of ugly crying. That was, and I didn't know that I was using an intervention. I was just crying regularly and as ugly as possible. But anyway, that helped me get out. Not the most graceful of interventions, but it is what it is, right? So, and then we've got laughing. Laughing is like, that's why people sometimes are nervous laughing and they're hysterical laughing, right? It's moving emotion. It's helping emotion move. You're using the body to do that. Walking, those sorts of things, those are natural ways, but there's ways to use those things intentionally. But those aren't my fastest interventions. But you'll notice, like some people say, if I go for a good run, I'm really, it helps me emotionally. And actually that's a form of EMDR because you're getting bilateral stimulation. Your eyes are moving back and forth, and you can do EMDR auditorily with sound. I love that. I thought I would hate that. And my mom got these devices that I had one that does the bilateral tactile stuff. And she bought me one with the auditory, and I was just like, oh. And because anyway, so, but I put them on. I love them. I love them. But that's a type of EMDR because you're getting bilateral stimulation. Your brain is going left and right and left and right. And then there is, your body also has a meridian system, and that's used with acupuncture uses that. And there's interventions, tapping interventions that use your meridian system to create shifts in your how you're energetically interacting with all these stuff. Those are my favorite because I'm going to tell you why after the end of this. But so what happens is with eye movement is when you do this work, you basically have to take a tour of your brain, and you have to get in there with, like, imagine yourself with a little tool belt on. You go in there and you find dysfunction, and you do the work in there on this thing, and it creates function. And then you go to the next thing and you do that again, and you create function. And you just go around your inner world and you heal it. You fix it up. And this can happen really, really quickly. So it sounds terrible, but it's really beautiful and fast and awesome. But when you use EMDR, your brain is leading the tour. So you will go on the tour that your brain takes you on. So imagine yourself on a bus, and your brain is driving the bus, and your brain has this tool now that's happening, and it's like, yeah, let's do this. And it decides where you're going to go. It's like, first stop, we're going to go over here, and then we're going to go over there. Now, if you are somebody that has a lot of trauma that you don't want to go to, because you know if you touch that stuff, you're going under, and you will be triggered incredibly and overwhelmingly, and you will dissociate, you will check out, you will have thoughts of suicide. You may prefer that than living with this brain stuff, right? This is a nightmare because your brain is taking you on a tour, and it might decide that this is where we're going to go. I've been waiting to get in there, and I want to do that healing work, and it's all excited, and you are terrorized, and you are in the situation you can't handle, and you feel like you're reliving the event, and you have done everything in your whole life not to relive that event, and here you are being taken by your brain in here. And let me tell you what, the other function of EMDR is that when you hit the memory, a lot of times the emotions will get bigger, and it'll get more intense, and then it will come down, and it will get more intense, and it will come down, and it'll get more intense, and it'll come down. For someone like me, I don't have lots of intense traumas like that. So I like the ride. I'm like, oh yeah, look at that. I'm coming down. I'm ugly crying. I'm coming down. I'm enjoying that. right? But if you are somebody who has depression, and not all depression, because depression can be resolved with EMDR as well, but if depression is telling you that there's a lot of emotional pain and we just need to we need to put a blanket on it so that we just numb out just a little bit. We just don't care as much. We can't connect with it as much. And so that tells me that there's a lot of emotional pain already, right? So maybe you're already at a 9 or a 10. Right, and then we're going to go to this. We're gonna focus on an event. We're going to let your brain take us where it wants to go, and it's going to intensify. And maybe it's going to hit an 11, 12, 3,000 intensity level. If it's already so high, there's not a lot of wiggle room there. As a therapist, I'm going to be a little bit like, I don't know if I want to do that with you, because I want you to stay safe. I want you to be okay during this ride. Right? And so what happens if with therapists that are only trained in EMDR that have no other interventions, when you get that high, or some people are coming in at a 12, 13 already on a scale of 0 to 10, they're not going to do this with you because, you know, you're going to go up and down and up and down. What's going to happen, and what we're trained to do, is we're trained to use cognitive behavioral methods to start helping you come under to bring the pain down, so there is room to go up and down and up and down and up and down, right? So this is to keep you safe. This is not because people want to be like withholding treatment from you, right? EMDR has sent many people to the ER for because they are very concerned that they are going to kill themselves. This has created problems, big problems. So the side effects of this are huge and nasty, and that's why you're protecting yourself against that. That's why you don't have blocks in your own brain that are there so that you don't go in there, because if you do, bad things are going to happen. And so EMDR, like, the brain will take you past there, and you don't get to choose that. And so, but if you use some other methods, you get to respect the boundaries and be like, okay, well, we'll work over here and do all this other work we can be doing, and we get to choose what we're going to do. Right? And so we get to drive the bus as opposed to your brain driving the bus. And that way we don't just drive over ramps that are set up to keep you out of stuff. Right? And what happens is, as you do the healing work you can do, your brain already says, well, you know what, actually, you're kind of pretty good at this. And that other stuff worked. Maybe we can handle this. Okay, and it will start changing the setting of where the ramp is. And it'll start giving you, it's like, you can have this, you can't have the other stuff back there, but you can have this. And so then you work on that, and then your brain is like, oh, good job. And yeah, I don't know, but maybe. And then pretty soon it'll say, okay, well, what are you going to do with this? And it'll set something else in front of there, or it'll move back again. And now you get to do that work without violating your natural boundaries, because safety first. If you're not safe, there's not a whole lot you can do. Right? There's not a whole lot of, there's not a lot of healing. There's a lot of healing work you can do if you're not safe. But with EMDR, there's no guarantee you can be kept safe during that state. And so a therapist really has to have pretty good sense of, they can handle this, they can tolerate this, where we can control it, and this is going to be positive. And while they're doing their trauma work, they will be stable. Right? They'll be able to keep 2 feet on the ground. That's somebody that they're going to be able to do work with. And I have people that can come in, and in the 3rd, 4th session, we can go. No problem. I have other people that I'm like, no, we are not doing EMDR, not today, not on my couch. And so, and so that's off the table. You know? And so if you're somebody who has a lot of, I call them hot spots. They're like memories that are incredibly hot, infernos. Like, if you touch those, you're going to get burned. If you have a lot of those things, EMDR is probably not going to be the best fit for you right now. And so, and if you go with somebody who's only trained in EMDR, you're going to have to use cognitive strategies to get in a place where EMDR will be okay for you. And then you'll have to start really small and those sorts of things. And that process of waiting till you are stable can take 6 months and can take a long time. Like I talk with people that have been with, and really in the healing work, the only thing that counts when we're talking about limit, and this is me, this is what I count. These are Rachel's rules. And so, hear that for what it is, but it is what it is. So, the only time that counts with eliminating symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress is when you are using these interventions. Okay, so and that's for if you've got an anxiety, depression, or trauma disorder, because there's other ways you can activate the same healing strategies without these, but I don't typically see that happening with disorder. I see it happening where we can, and now my clients will do that eventually, but you need an intervention in the beginning. And why not? Because we're trying to get through this as fast as possible. Okay, so, and I've totally trailed off. I have no idea where I am. Okay, yes. So I will get clients that will come to me and they've been with somebody and they've been with somebody for like 2 years, an EMDR therapist, and they've done 2 or 3 sessions of EMDR. And I'm just like mind boggled, because the only time that counts in reorganizing the brain and helping the brain do its healing work is the time when the eyes are moving, or the time when you're using one of these interventions, when you're activating the body's natural healing mechanisms to heal itself. That's the only time that counts. So they've been with somebody for 2 years. That's probably, if they've been going weekly, that's 104 sessions. And that's if you didn't miss a week, right? 104 hours. And 2 of those hours were spent in work that will actually help the brain heal itself. That horrifies me. I don't like that. So if you're an EMDR therapist, I want you to hear the rest of this video. 2, if you are a client that has like, yeah, I've tried EMDR and you've only done 2 sessions, that's not going to get it. You're going to notice some change, but that's not going to get it. There is a lot of work to do in your brain, and you got to get that. And in my work, what I estimate is that it takes to move a whole anxiety, depression, or trauma disorder into remission, it takes 120 to 300 hours of specific and targeted brain work. Now, I talked to a woman who booked a breakthrough call with me, great woman, and I let her know that we're looking at about 400 hours, because she also has some other stuff, right? And so you got to be honest about this stuff. It's going to take some elbow grease. Let me tell you what, if there was a magic pill, I would be open to that. You got one, you go ahead and DM me the name of that. I'm going to start researching. But until then, because what happens, and you can do, once you know what you're doing, and while you're learning what you're doing, you can get that 120 hours in a 2-month period very, very easily. And the 300 hours, if you can do 120 in that amount of time, you can get, in 6 months, you can get through your 300 hours. You can get through your 400 hours depending on how motivated you are. And let me tell you what, if you have the tools that you can do this, you can do them as many hours a day as you want, and you're not dependent on somebody's weekly schedule to do 1 hour a week of this work. And let me tell you what, if you're being chased by anxiety, depression, or traumatic stress, your motivation to get out of pain is way greater than anybody else's on this planet. And so I know you can do the work quickly. I did, my clients do. That's the thing, but you got to do it. You got to do the work. And so I want you to know that if you're somebody with a lot of trauma, you're going to find yourself hard pressed to have an EMDR therapist do this work with you. And I don't recommend that you go ahead and go look. There's books on this, self-administered EMDR. And I teach people that. I think it's a very valuable tool at the right time. But you can go get that, but you can hurt yourself. And it's very dangerous. And it is not okay. Like, dudes, if you would like to avoid a mental health crisis, please avoid using EMDR by yourself, especially if you've got a lot of hot spots. Okay. Now, I know some of you won't listen to me. I probably was one of them. But if you're feeling like, then it's probably going to be a good intervention for you. If you don't have a lot of the hot spots and you're feeling, then get you what you want. Go do it. But there's not a lot of therapists that will teach people how to do the EMDR for themselves. Lots of reasons for that, that you can talk with them about, but some of them will. And so just so you know. And once you get the tool in your own hands, you're rocking. So, but there's all these other interventions that can be, well, let me say something else. What I find, I really love to use EMDR for when there's something that's coming up that's not really clear and we only got like a couple of pieces. Because normally if you can see, if you can, you just need to grab something by the tail, right? And then you can just start pulling it out. Using these interventions, it just comes out nicely, right? And you're done. Your brain will just be like, okay, gone, or resolved, and it'll get what it needs from it, and then it will discard the rest. So, but there's other times where you're like, I'm looking for just a little, can I get an arm, a leg? I'm getting the image of a lizard right now. A lizard in your brain. That might horrify you, so don't go with that. But all you need is a little something. And sometimes we can get a vague image of it. And so sometimes I'm like, brain, take us on a ride. Like, what is this that you're talking about? And so a lot of times for exploration, I love to do that because the brain will be like, oh, let me take you there. And it'll go right there. And then you can do whatever tool you want with it from then. And you might keep doing EMDR. You might want to pull out one of the other ones. Doesn't matter. And I find that when people do a lot of their trauma work, there's aspects of EMDR that they can pull in and they can start using pretty awesomely. Or that later on, when they've dealt with their hot spots through the stuff and they're pretty functional and they have really well established these other tools that they can take care of any hot spots that come up because they can just pause the EMDR and use some of the other interventions and then jump back on. What happens is that it opens up and they can start using it and they can use it if they want to. A lot of my clients who get really good and really great results with tapping or using the meridian system, they'll just keep using it because they're comfortable and they're confident and whatnot. But other people will start integrating other things in. And there's other things just for wellness that you can use for EMDR that is really, really phenomenal. People are starting to use them more broadly. So it's an awesome intervention. And but I wanted you to know that, and I wanted you to know if you're one of those people that have a lot of trauma, that have a lot of hot spots, and you want to still get results, there's other interventions, emotional freedom techniques, thought-filled therapy, Eden energy medicine, love it. You know, those interventions are incredibly powerful, and you can start using them right away with no known side effects, right? There are always side effects to life, right? You can always have a memory pop up. You can always have flashbacks, you know, but this intervention doesn't really create, there's no known side effects to them since my last research time. So you might want to look that up yourself. But with the tapping, you get control of it. Like, you are the driver in the seat and your brain gets in the back seat and it's like, I like this. Go ahead, drive, and you can still help the brain do the healing work that it's going to do, and you get full control over it. And that's really how I help people move through really, really powerful trauma, is because we get to control it, right? We can do brain tricks. We can do all sorts of things so that they can meet the minimum requirements for healing and get the healing that they need. And this is really, really wonderful because I've had clients who can't get any EMDR, can't find somebody who will do this, and who are like, I don't want to relive that. I don't want to go back. And, you know, just in tears of gratitude, like, this is healing, and I didn't have to even go there. I didn't have to talk about it again. I didn't have to relive it. I didn't have to, nothing. And that is powerful. That's really empowering. So if you're somebody who's got a lot of trauma, there's still a way for you to do this stuff with the least amount of pain, because you have to, one of the requirements is you have to be able to pay attention to something in a tolerable zone. And so there's lots of tricks for that, how to pay attention to something without activating all the pain or opening it up and risking it spilling out all over your life and losing control of it. So anyway, I want you to know that. I want you to know that this is powerful, awesome work. There is a slingshot of awesome in your life waiting for you that will take you up. And it's really by helping the brain do the healing work it wants to do. It's like anything that's, if you've got the hot spots, or you've got unprocessed trauma, or you've got a negative inner critic, or these patterns of cycling and what ifs and catastrophic thinking and intrusive thoughts and worry and panic attacks, right? That usually is coming from stuff that's not processed, that the brain cannot get into to do the healing work. But your brain is still referencing it. It's still like, oh, it's still making associations, still activating it. So it's activating it in its unprocessed form, and that is painful. And that's where the disorder comes from. And then you got to do all these kind of tricks to get out of there, and like emotional eating and having that glass of wine or two, the marijuana, staying busy all the time. There's so much effort in managing this unprocessed stuff, so that if you just get your brain to get that stuff through, it's amazing. It's the same thing as having a stomach full of food that doesn't ever go anywhere. Like your body starts to weaken, your stomach hurts, all kinds of disorders there, and it's happening to you mentally and emotionally. You've got to get your mental digestive system working, and you got to get that stuff digested and processed. Because let me tell you what, the most amazing parts of you that are not currently active are in there. And your brain wants in there so badly because it wants to grab that stuff, and it wants it. It wants those parts. It wants to be able to function in that way, and it can't, and it keeps trying it. And let me tell you what, it's never going to stop trying. And it's going to just keep at you, and you're going to have to carry all that emotional baggage around, and I love that, you're carrying like 3 loads of garbage bags and backpacks, and, I know you've got like strong quads now, and your core is strong, but you're not supposed to walk around with all that stuff. And let me tell you what, it stinks, and you can smell it, and your people can smell it. Get rid of that stuff. Process this stuff. And EMDR might be something for you. It might not be something for you. Whatever. It's awesome. And if it doesn't work for you, there's other awesome things. But the thing is, get it. And and get free and get this work done and get it behind you, because let me tell you what, your life can be dramatically different between now and 2 months from now. What's stopping you from doing that? Do you want that? Do you want a 2-year plan? Do you want a 5-year plan? Do you want a 3-year plan? Do you want a 1-year plan? What do you want? Go get it. There's nothing stopping you from getting it. And if there is something stopping you, turn around, face that thing, get that thing out of your life, and get what you want and get what you need. And if you can't get that thing out of your life, talk to somebody who can help you get that thing so you can get moving. Okay, if this is something you want to talk with me about because this is really resonating with you, and you're the kind of person that's like, I want to learn these tools, and yes, I want to be in the driver's seat, and yes, I want to be able to use these tools all day long, whenever I need them, whenever I want them, to help my brain do the work it's trying to do. If that's something that's really resonating with you, I want you to go ahead and grab a spot on my calendar. You can go to rachelmccloud.com/call, and I'll spend an hour with you, and we'll take a look at what's going on, what you want, and I'll help you create a plan to get there. And if that includes me, I will totally show you how. And if not, that's okay too. I want you moving. I want you getting there, and I will direct you to whatever is best for you. Okay, so that's it from Rachel. Do you have any questions, comments, or concerns? Have you tried EMDR? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you find it useful? How many sessions have you done? Okay, this is the other thing I was going to talk about. Finding the right match. I'm not going to talk about that. I was, but I'm not. You can find the right match. Like if you are pulled to do EMDR, you're gonna just go and fill it out. If there's somebody that's like, yeah, we'll eliminate this. I mean, that's really the match. That's really the match, I would say, is that somebody who's confident that this can be resolved. Because you don't want somebody that's like, I don't know. I mean, that might match your insecurities. Maybe you're a person that's like, I don't know if I can or not. And you'll like attract that person, a therapist that's like, I don't know. If that's what you want to go for, then try that. But I would recommend finding somebody that's like, yeah, absolutely. Let's rock that. Sounds fun, And so because you're going to be limited by their beliefs, and if they're the only person you can get with, use that until you can get to another place, right? But there are some therapists that they have been trained in EMDR, but they don't really use it. They prefer to use talk therapy strategies. And I'm okay with that as long as they don't call themselves, never mind. I'm okay. My inner snob, my inner warrior wants to come out and hack things to pieces. But everything serves, right? But as long as I'm not going to even say that. Okay. Yeah, you'll get there. You'll figure that out when you get there. I recommend doing interventions. Hear me say that. I recommend doing the interventions. And if I think that 1 hour of EMDR is as powerful as 7, 8, 10, 20, 50 hours of talking. Yes, I do. And so there's that. Also, it's really cool if you can find somebody who's trained in multiple strategies, right? Because if this doesn't work, then there's this option. It's really frustrating when you find somebody who only can do EMDR and they don't have access to any other tools. So if you're not in a place to do EMDR, then you don't get to do anything, right? And there's so many ways to take care of the body in distress without using EMDR that I'd rather do something to help your heart racing and the nauseousness and the tension and the headaches and the jaw clenching and the restless feeling running through your body. I'd rather do something with that than just, well, I'm sorry you're suffering. That looks really frustrating. I can see your jaw muscles bulging out of your face, but we can't use the tool that we have. No, I don't like that. So, and the other piece is I wrote it down because I didn't want to forget, is just knowing when you come to the end of someone's skill set. And that's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a frustrating thing if you get 3 sessions in and you're like, that's it, or you get 10 sessions in and you're like, okay, well, I know that we're at the end of my skill set when my client and I are sitting there and we're like, okay, well, what now? And then we're like, okay, good. Now what? What are you going to do now? Because, I'm here helping you look for problems and eliminating them. And if we're both like, I can't find any problems. Yeah, we just did that. Done. And then we celebrate. I had a client recently, like the entire session was just celebration. She's almost finished, right? We're at that point where it's just mostly sunshine and awesomeness. And I've had other clients come in and I miss them, but I'm not going to hold on to them for no reason. They got things to do. And there's so many amazing things to be doing in the world. Like people want to advance in their job. They want to build a business. Get a coach for that. That I'm not going to help you with that. And I could help you with that, but let me tell you, you'd be missing out on amazing specialists that do that work. There's some people that want to up their golf game when they're done. Go do that. Go do it. And there's some people that want to go back to school. Go back to school. Don't be hanging out with me in therapy. Go now. Now the door is open. Walk in it. And a lot of times then, the new, you got to take care of your body again. But by this time, people have the skills to do that themselves, right? And maybe they want to come back in for a yearly, take the garbage out session, whatever. But they can still do any and all of the work to take care of their own body from there, right? So, and also if you find yourself circling with no progress, or you find yourself leading the conversation frequently, that's not a thing. I don't think that that's you're saying, well, I want to do this and I want to do that, and then it may or may not go into something. I think you're at the end of their skill set. And other things that might tell you that is if they just talk about themselves. And I've had people come tell me that their therapist just shows them videos on YouTube. You've come to the end of their skill set, or not, or maybe your skill sets don't match. I almost showed a video on YouTube and I was like, ha ha ha. Rachel's world. I am that therapist. Let's do it. But it was anyway. I didn't, but it was right there. And so let's see. It was actually going to be, no, I'm not going to tell you what it was. There's things that these people, and some of this has to do with therapists not doing their work, right? Every therapist has something amazing within them that is theirs that cannot be duplicated. right? But sometimes and I did this, you go into a situation where you feel like you need to be like everybody else, and this is trauma work, and this is how I saw my mentor do it, and so I'm doing it. And that's a real thing, and you might find people that are in that place still. But really, these people are wonderful for helping people find the right career path, or finding their soulmate, right? Or they're sex therapists, and they're this, and they're really just haven't defined that for themselves yet. And once they define that for themselves, then they'll step into that, and they will be phenomenal. They will be the person you want to see for that problem, right? And they have done the work to specialize in it. They have done the work to be able to create consistent and generate consistent, powerful, transformational results. That's the one you want for that. And we're all in different places in our journey. And just know that that's what you're getting when you're working with therapists. You don't know where we're at. You don't know what we've been through. Some of us, I'm like, when I first became a therapist, I was terrible. And not just that I was terrible, I was ignorant to how terrible I was. And I was ignorant to how mentally ill I was. I was very mentally ill. My anxiety and PTSD was off the chains, and nobody knew, because I looked like I had it all together, because my PTSD and anxiety symptoms were driving me to perfectionism, and I was hitting those marks. But it was all fear-based. It was all fear-driven, and inside I was a whirlwind of that. And so I couldn't have helped myself with that. It was only after doing my own work that I was like, oh, I was able to recognize it in other people, and I knew how to take it down because I had taken it down for myself. Many therapists are in that same position, and I work with some of them. Amazing people. They're going to be phenomenal, and as they find who they are and they step into that place, they're going to be rocking. And they might be even the people that I am like, because I'm a little salty. I'm going to work on that. Let's see. I'm salty because I'm hurt, right? I'm hurt. Let me tell you, confessions from Rachel that just arrived in my brain. I'm hurt because I sent my loved ones there, and not just my loved ones, but I've gotten clients who, when you see so deeply into someone's soul and you see the workings in there, there's just a connection, right? And and that's and it's like to know that they were suffering for so long because somebody thought they were doing something and they weren't, and they haven't found their place yet, which right now I'm like, we're moving into forgiveness over here, and putting this into perspective. But to know that they had these experiences just hurts me. It just hurts me. Okay. I will work on that. You will now encounter the less saltier version of Rachel from now on. Okay. Let's see. I think that's all. I'm not seeing any questions or comments, and I've been going at this for a while. Just be aware. If your inner system is telling you, there's something about this therapist, I'm not really feeling any results. If you're telling yourself, well, we'll just wait till next session and see. Okay, maybe we'll get to it next session. Okay, maybe we'll get to it. No, those are signs. Your inner self is telling you, I'm not feeling like we're getting the results that we want here. Okay, so I just want you to listen to that and move on. There's things to be doing. Give it a go, and if it's not, then no. And also, sometimes you found a gem of a therapist, and they are an amazing support, but they don't eliminate symptoms of trauma, to anxiety and depression. You can still go ahead and find somebody that does that and keep your other person. That's great. Most of us who have anxiety, depression, trauma disorders have them because we didn't get enough support, or we didn't get the right kind of support. So getting support in your healing journey is part of the healing. And so if you've already got a really strong, wonderful connection, good. They're serving that purpose. And there's another need, meet that need. Right? And then you meet that need and that one goes away, and you still have your support person. And you might find then you have another need. You're like, I need to find my purpose. I need to be living my purpose. Or maybe you find that I want some parenting advice. I want to be able to declutter my home. Now you find somebody for that if you don't have it. And let me tell you, if it didn't come in your package, you might want to go get that, because I'll tell you, anyway. Rachel's package. Anyway, that's where I learned how to really master my mental health, is learning how to clean my home. Don't overlook that, man. That stuff's, your trauma work and your trauma healing is all around you. I think that's really the message of it. And I was writing down in my gratitude journal that life comes to you anywhere and everywhere. Like healing comes to you anywhere and everywhere, and if you're a stay-at-home mom and you're folding clothes and laundry, there's healing in that. It's really, really cool. You don't have to change your whole situation. You don't have to change your whole, it's that bloom where you planted situation. That all these little things in your life that trigger you or upset you, those are areas for some really huge transformation, because under them are lots of things. Okay, so I think that's it. We're at 44 minutes. That number is probably going to look discouraging to some people. But we just got carried away into such a great time. Thank you for joining me. And go ahead and post any comments or concerns. Oh, yay. LaShonda, great advice. Wonderful. Good. Okay, thank you for that, LaShonda. I appreciate your participation and your great feedback. Okay, I will see you all at another time, and take care. Bye.